We have been to Europe. We have been to the Germanic area of Europe. We have been to the Caribbean, putting out incredible sandwiches. 12 sandwiches so far, but we have perhaps our even biggest challenge today, the battle for North America. 3 new countries: Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America. Come along as we go through our 4th episode of Sandwich Battles. Let's go. So, the very first sandwich that we're going to be making today is going to be called a torta. Now, a torta is a type of sandwich that is from our friends down in Mexico. Now, I know what y'all thinking. Is a taco a sandwich? Maybe you're not thinking that, but listen, I could not, in good conscience, declare a taco a sandwich any more than I could declare a pizza a sandwich. So I went looking, and this is what I found. So we have a couple of things to do before we get to the actual construction. So let's go ahead and get those done. This is the actual flank steak that we're going to be using here. And what I did was I marinated this in garlic and Worcestershire sauce, as well as liquid smoke. So we're going to get that cooking in just a little bit. But we need to go ahead and chop some stuff up here, so let's do that. We have our tomato, and I'm actually going to be using a tomato for another sandwich as well, so we're just going to go ahead and do this for both sandwiches. Next, we have our actual steak roll here, and what we're going to do on all of our sandwiches is we're actually going to butter it or toast it, fry it. And we do this for a couple of reasons. One, you can see how flimsy this is. And the frying it will make a better base. But also, it adds a bit of texture as well. So always butter and fry the buns. Now for this, I use mayonnaise, and I use a plant-based mayonnaise just because eggs are not my friend. Sometimes, not all times, but it doesn't tell me ahead of time when it's not gonna be my friend, so just to be safe, we use this. And this is an oil, just like butter, except it doesn't require thawing out the butter. It's just easier to use, so I use this. One, two. Okay, and it does not have to look pretty by any means. Now, we're going to take our steak, and then we're going to take our buns. We're going to go ahead and cook them, fry them. And I'll see you in a minute, and due to movie magic, I'm coming back to you in 3, 2, 1. Our buns here. And we have our steak ready as well. Now, we took our steak, we cooked it to about rare, medium rare. We had the oven going, we let it rest, and then we put it into pretty thin slices, so I'm really happy with how it came out. But now it's time to make the sandwich. This particular sandwich, I'm actually going to apply a little bit more mayonnaise on it as well, just as a general coat and as a reminder. When you toast the buns, you have to let them cool first before you apply mayonnaise or butter or anything that's an oil. So as soon as it reaches a hot substance, it's going to melt, and you're not going to taste it. You're just going to be getting more fat and more calories. You don't want that, so make sure your buns cool before you apply an oil like mayonnaise. Not a lot. Okay. And now we're just going to line up our toppings. We have our steak. We line it up as so. Now with the steak sandwich, we also don't want to go too thick on the meat because it's chewy, and we don't want it to be even chewier by putting more and more and more and more. So I like this, and that to me is a good amount. I'm going to take some lettuce. Put it on there just so. This is butter lettuce. I love butter lettuce. I think it's great. Next, Just like that. Not a whole lot. Enough to taste. Take this. Put it on our sandwich. And let's prepare for that cross section. And here we have our torta. For the second sandwich, we are going to Canada, not my home, nor my native land, but I tell you what, I had no idea that Canada had such amazing sandwiches. I went to look for different Canadian sandwiches and was amazed at the options I had. Eventually chose Peameal Bacon, a Toronto and Ontario classic. And unfortunately, the Americans' equivalent of Canadian bacon is basically just ham. It's just back bacon and poorly done at that. So what we ended up doing was we grabbed pork loin and put it in a brine, and that brine, even it looks disgusting. It looks disgusting. Star anise, mustard seeds, black pepper, brock powder, all that good stuff. Got it out, washed it off, dried it, and then we rolled it in cornmeal. Now they call it peameal, because it used to be yellow peas. They roll it in yellow peas. They don't do that anymore. It's not the most practical, so we did that. Put it back in the fridge. So it brined for 5 days. Back in the fridge. Once you roll it with the peameal, let it sit, cut it thin, and get her to go. So we've already cut up our tomatoes, but we do have to do one thing before we fry that up, and that is to toast our buns. Today we have a Kaiser roll, which has not been cut, so let's go ahead and cut it. Voila. And as always, what's our roll? Let's toast these buns, baby. Just put a nice, generous amount. And now I'm going to go toast these up, get our Peameal bacon going on, and I will see you back in 3, 2, 1. So we have the bottom, we have the top of our Kaiser roll, and we have our Peameal bacon. Doesn't that look good? If you say no, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. I'm just kidding. Let's go ahead and let's dress this up, shall we? So the bacon is going to taste a lot like the marinade, but it's not an insanely strong flavor, so I'm gonna be pretty sparing with the condiments. Let's go ahead and just start plating. Beautiful homemade Peameal bacon. And we're laying it on thick here. I took it off, which is let it chill on paper towels, get some of that oil out, and then salt it a little bit. That's all I did. We're going to take the top, and we're going to give it a little bit of a coating of honey mustard that I made myself. Honey mustard's so very easy. It's honey, mustard, and mayonnaise. That's it. Now we need something to go with this. Tomato. And a bit of our butter lettuce. Just a little bit. Take this. And we put it on top. Now these pieces are very thin by design. I did not want it to be chewy, and I'm quite happy with at least what it looks like. We have some insanely messy cross sections going on tonight. This brings us to the last sandwich. This one, however, is my home and my native land. This is the United States of America, and when I think of the United States of America, I think of none other than the grilled cheese. I think grilled cheese epitomizes America. If we could slather everything in butter and cheese and fry it, I think life and the world would be an obese but happier place. So, this is a ridiculously simple sandwich, and especially compared to the sandwiches we've been making. The last one took me 5 days to make. The key to this sandwich is in its execution. Proper cheeses, yes. Proper bread, yes. But people try to complicate it. The more you complicate it, the worse it gets. Gordon Ramsay famously botched this sandwich. He started with a piece of Texas toast. The bread was about that thick. Cooked it on high over a freaking fire. Burned the bread. Put cheese that was about that thick. And the cheese never melted. The bread burned, and it looked terrible. Not only that, the man put this on it, and I just want to say, I love kimchi. What the heck? Why would you put this on a grilled cheese? I swear, I swear, I swear. So we're going to be doing a grilled cheese, right? We're not going to be failing miserably, and it's all about the technique. Fun fact, this was Johnny Cash, no, not Johnny Cash, Frank Sinatra's last meal. He actually died while eating a grilled cheese. Went outside with a grilled cheese, had a massive heart attack, and died. This one's for you, Frank. 2 cheeses. Gosh, that wasn't pleasant. Now, I'll tell you what, growing up, you got Wonder Bread and yellow American cheese. I could have done that, but I have some really, really good sandwiches that this is competing against. I wanted to make it competitive. So we have a sliced sharp cheddar, but we need to cut this Gruyere ourselves, so let's do that. Okay. defusing a bomb. You have to get this to melt before the bread burns, and it is a skill. In order to do this, we have to cut our cheese super, super thin. And I don't even want to try to do it this way. So we're just going to do it this way. This is what I'm talking about. This thin. This thin. And we'll do one more. Just like that. So we have all of this going on. I'll take our Gruyere, move it over. We're going to take two slices of extra sharp cheddar. Now let's do the bread. This is our bread. This is artisan white bread, spongy, about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to put mayonnaise on it just like the other ones. And it's going to be frying the outside. It really doesn't matter how much you put on this because the excess is just going to burn off. So we're going to put all of these together in a beautiful cross section. We're going to flip it frequently to make sure that our cheese is melted and we're not going to burn the bread. We'll be back in 3, 2, 1. This beautiful moment almost completely and totally ruined by Gotham Steel, the worst pans that I've ever used by far. So it's stuck and it looks awful, but you know what? I'm gonna go with it because we don't waste food here, right? Okay. Now I'm gonna show you out there, including Mr. Ramsay, what a good cross section looks like for grilled cheese. We cut horizontally. You hear that crisp, that crunch. You see the cheese start going out. Gosh darn. And the cheese and the crispiness of the bread is fighting with you the whole time. This, Chef Ramsay, is what a grilled cheese is supposed to be. Just like that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Let's go ahead and go up and let's put these to the test, shall we? Here we are. I hope you have enjoyed this so far. Now is the time when we do our official taste test and see which one rules supreme. Is it going to be the stars and bars, old Uncle Sam? Is it going to be our friends to the south, the Mexicanos? Or is it going to be our cold weather family to the north? Our friends, oh Canada, my home and native land. Let's begin, shall we? So, I actually did this a touch different this time. Typically, when I have these sandwiches, I have so much stuff left over I didn't want to waste anything, so I actually got hog wild fed it to the family. And afterwards I said, okay, this will be the easiest thing in the world. I'll just ask them who wins. Easy, right? Wrong. They decided that they just simply couldn't tell which one was the best. And I said, well, this was a failure. So I'm still on my own. Totally and completely on my own. I'm just exhausted after cooking for 9 people. So I gave them the Canadian sandwich and the Mexican sandwich. I figured they already knew what a grilled cheese was because they made it for me as a child. And they just couldn't figure it out. So let's go ahead and let's start with our torta, which is going to be our steak sandwich from Mexico. Now, I've already tried a torta. This, I believe it was Puerto Rico, when I had the Puerto Rico, and I tried the torta on tostones, which are fried plantains. I liked it enough to give it another shot, but it was just too messy. It was too uncivilized. Not this time, man. I decided to get a good steak, marinated for 2 days or a day or whatever. Give it another shot, put it on a proper roll. So here we go, the torta. Let's do this thing. Are you kidding me? It is chewy. It is chewy. I thought that the flank steak would be tougher, and it's really not. It's good. It's just, we wanted to make sure that our flank steak was a good medium rare. So it's going to be just a tad chewy because of that. Over here just eating like an animal, like a freaking T-Rex or something. That's so good. That marinade, which was the garlic, the Worcestershire, and the liquid smoke, is just so good. The flank steak was great. The red onions give it the nice little crunch. The steak roll is a good touch. Butter lettuce is always great. And the tomatoes actually complement the steak so well. That's really good. That was much better than the torta on the tostones, I think. That was really good, really good. Let's go to tasting my childhood. This is the grilled cheese. Look at this. An absolute mess. An absolute mess. Still have the cheese falling down. No. As a rule, you don't just have grilled cheese, right? You have it with a soup. A really popular offering is tomato soup. Unless you're like a child, because grilled cheese is on basically every kid's menu at every restaurant in America. But typically you have it with something. You don't just have grilled cheese by itself. But we're going to give it the old college try. They used to have the Kraft commercials with the cheese. They used to have a grilled cheese and the kid would like bit out of the middle. It was like, I used to drive my OCD nuts. I was like, you don't do it that way. You start from the ankles. What's wrong with you? But it has to be diagonal for me because you have soup typically with it. You get in like this cheap pre-made Campbell's tomato soup, and you have to put it at an angle, cut it at an angle so you can dip it. That's the reason why we go with an angle for this. Let's stop blabbing and give it a shot. It's so good. Truly. And that is a great combination. The Gruyere mixed with the sharp cheddar, because the Gruyere is naturally smoky and very creamy, but the sharp cheddar is just the opposite. You mix it with like a Texas toast and a decently thick bread. Salty, creamy, crunchy. Absolutely the best cure for depression and the best way to become morbidly obese that I've found. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. Sorry. I'm just taking a moment for myself here. That's so good. And it's so easy. Almost have to consider like how simple it is compared to the steak sandwich that took 2 days to marinate and the bacon sandwich that took 5 days to brine. We're moving on to Canada. But first, I need to do something. Humor me, I'll be back in just a second. Okay, that's a little bit more appropriate, I think. Been waiting for an opportunity to be my true self. So, I have a strong fondness for the Canadians. Not that I don't have a strong fondness for anybody else, but I have a lot of friends in Ontario. The last time that one of them came down here, I was like, what can I do to absolutely embarrass them as much as possible? Bear in mind, this is how Americans show affection. And at least to their friends. I wouldn't bother with it if I didn't like you. And so I went on Amazon and I got every single Canadian themed anything that would come within 2-day Prime shipping. And I showed up like this, and they were horrified, and it was 100% the best money that I've ever spent. But I do love me some Canadians, I will say. My favorite singer, at least one of, is a man named Stan Rogers, Canadian folk singer. 2 things I know about Stan Rogers. One, the only song that people seem to know of his Barrett's Privateers. That's so disingenuous. He has so many great songs. My favorite is Lies. So good, so good. He's like a Canadian version of Taylor Swift. If Taylor Swift was like 30 and bald at the top and lived by the Maritimes on the ocean and sang sea shanties, is what I'm trying to say. And number 2, nobody in Toronto seems to know who the heck he is. And I'm just like, what the heck? He's from here. He's from me. Well, anyways, you know what? Hi, Canadians. How you doing? Peameal bacon. Apparently only really an Ontario thing. But in America, they say Canadian bacon. They do not mean Peameal bacon. They mean ham, basically. So I had to make my own Peameal bacon, and this is it. This be it. It looks really good. It's pink from the prog powder and the sodium nitrate. I'm running up like a chemist up in here. So let's go and give it a shot. Look how good it looks. Oh, Canada. Not my home, nor my native land, but I do salute you. That's really good. Oh, that's really good. So, instead of having like a fatty, streaky bacon, this is uber. What do they call that? Thin, yes, but lean. Not a lot of fat. And it tastes like what you brined it with. It's really good. It's really good. The Canadians have taught me so much. They speak their own language. If you've never talked to someone from Canada, they like to short case everything. And they don't realize that nobody else in the North America, in the English-speaking countries, does this. Except for Australia. And so they'll be like, hey, I want to go to Timmy's and get a double-double. It's cold outside, so I'm going to grab my toque and go park in a parkade and then walk there, yay. And what they were trying to say is they're going to Tim Hortons to grab a coffee. I think it's endearing. I love it. I love all the A's too. I think it's amazing. I love it. I love Canadians. But I was talking with one after like a month of having no idea what they were saying. I just stopped them and I was like, listen, I don't want to be rude, but I have absolutely no idea what you're saying. And it floored her. It floored her, but at least where I live, we don't shorthand anything. If anything, we use the longest version of whatever that we have. I'm going back in. That's so good. The cornmeal gives it a bit of crunch. It's less chewy than the steak. It's pretty tender. Kind of reminds me of burnt ends, if you're familiar with the barbecue burnt ends. The honey mustard gives it a bit of sweetness. That's really good, and I would absolutely finish that if I just was here and I continued chewing. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Man, that's a tough one. We have our incredible torta from Mexico. Tortas from Mexico. Forget about avocados. Tortas from Mexico. We have warm goodness and the cure for just about almost any disease. I dare a disease to come, actually. Not obesity, it'll actually cause it, not cure it, but... And then we have this incredible Peameal bacon. And it really is incredible. When I was looking up how to make this, there was a lot of people that said they moved from Ontario to Alberta, British Columbia, Halifax, Nova Scotia. And they don't have it, apparently, outside of Ontario, so like, I had to make my own for the first time. It was crazy. And I see why. Because that was amazing, and I can't wait when I go to Toronto to try it. And apparently, that's another thing, it's Toronto. Toronto, it's not Toronto, it's Toronto. I'm like, ooh. And then they say, we're going to the GTA, and I was like, Grand Theft Auto, what? That does not mean Grand Theft Auto. It means Greater Toronto Area. Learning German, for me, was so much easier. Let's stop wasting time. Let's get down to it. Number 3. Oh my gosh. Number 3 is going to be the torta, I think. And I hate that I just said that because it is so good. But the steak is still a little chewy. It is a street food. So it's not meant to be super clean or elevated. I think it's great. And honestly, I think in another sandwich video with this torta, I think it might even win against these heavy hitters. I just don't know. Number 1, I'm actually going to give it to the Peameal bacon. And only because of this. The very first sandwich video I did, my battle for Europe, I did a croque monsieur. And a croque monsieur is a French grilled cheese with souped up grilled cheese that's already done a lot of damage in this series, called the croque monsieur. And this Peameal bacon is unique enough to where I'm gonna give it the edge over the grilled cheese. So good. But when I'm done with these countries, I think what I'm gonna do is go to the States and do the official state sandwich of maybe all states. I don't know, that's a lot of states. But it's so good, I'm not gonna give it the W, because I feel like the French did it a little bit better. And I want to give the Peameal bacon its day in the Canadian sun. Alright, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on this sandwich battle. If you haven't seen the other ones, go check out my other sandwich battle videos. They take a ridiculous amount of time and effort to put on, much more than any other of my videos. So any support is helpful. Liking, subscribe, all that good stuff. Very time